Hey guys, it's Miss Tulin here, and I'm here to read to you chapter 8 of Lily's story. Riley's at my feet right now. You can't see her, but she still is here to listen and follow along with you. So maybe she'll poke her head up at some point. But here we go, chapter 8. Sniffing. Sammy moved with quick, jerky motions towards the front of the cage. I got ready to play, but as I surged forward, my girl held me back, bewildered. I glanced up at her. What sort of game was this? We had this enormous yard, but my girl was holding me still, with a squirrel about to be on the loose. Hadn't we been waiting all this time for a chance to play chase me with this creature? Sammy darted out of the open door of the cage and stopped. She was twisting her head back and forth in quick motions, looking. Maggie Rose was tense. I could feel it in the way she held my leash. What were we doing? I strained against my collar. Squirrel? No, Lily, Maggie Rose said. It was a word I had heard before. No. And I didn't like it very much. I don't think a lot of people like that word, do they? It meant that I was not being a good dog. How could that be? I was doing anything except trying to play with the squirrel. Suddenly, Sammy skittered forward, halted, and then dashed to a tree, leaping up and scrabbling towards the top branches. I barked in frustration, and Sammy paused on a tree limb, staring down at me. Well, how was I supposed to play chase me when she was up there? I yipped, wagging, and when my girl suddenly dropped my leash, I ran to the tree and put my paws on the trunk and stared up at Sammy. If I looked at her hard enough, she'd understand that she needed to come back down right now. Your leg's all better, Sammy, my girl called, clapping her hands. I wagged. Yes, Sammy came down to play. Maggie Rose, as long as we're here, I am going to walk out towards the edge of the field. There's a small prairie colony out there. I want to see how they're doing. Do you want to come with me or stay with the truck? Lily will have to remain behind. Prairie dogs have fleas, and we don't want Lily to get any. What's up, Annie? You came to hear them? Let's see if we can get Annie in the shot. Come here. You want to say hi to the kids? Come here. Can you see? Oh, you can see my coffee mug. There's Annie. Yep, here's the other girl. I told you they were down here listening with us. Lily will have to remain behind. Prairie dogs have fleas, and we don't want Lily to get any. I'll stay here with Lily and watch Sammy, Maggie Rose replied. Sammy was still watching from atop the tree, and I decided she wasn't as smart as a dog. Because any dog would be able to tell that I wanted to play chase me, and I decided that until that squirrel came to her senses and returned to the ground, I should just ignore her. I shook myself all over, brushing away thoughts of chase me and ready for whatever came next. I won't go far, but if you need me for anything, just honk the horn, Dad said. I wagged as he marched away from us, and I looked up at my girl who was gazing up into the trees. I followed her gaze, but couldn't see anything but a squirrel that I was ignoring. Maggie Rose undid my leash. Let's make a midden for Sammy, Lily, Maggie Rose said. She began picking up dry, pointy balls that were littered on the ground. Excuse me, my allergies have been really bad. They had the same sharp tang that I could smell coming off those trees. She soon had a pile of them in a hollow area under a fallen tree trunk. I watched, baffled. What could we possibly be doing now? I was even less interested in these dry things as toys than when I was in the sticks with the odor that made my eyes water. A quick look showed me that Dad had wandered far away. I sat and searched under my chin with a rear paw, wondering what my humans were doing. Sammy, you're on the roof, Maggie Rose squealed. She ran over to the old building, and I followed. Sammy had made her way there, leaping from branch to branch, and was now on top, peering down over at us. Here, Sammy, have a pine cone. My girl swung her arm and tossed one of those odd-smelling balls up in the air and over the squirrel's head. Sammy immediately disappeared from view. Squirrels eat pine cones seeds, Lily, Maggie Rose said. I wagged and then barked, and when Sammy's head reappeared, now she was holding the strange ball in her mouth. Suddenly, the ball fell from Sammy's mouth, bounced down the roof, and landed at my feet. I pounced on it, picking it up, but I didn't chew it. It tasted awful. What do you think that ball is that that ball is that a squirrel would be carrying up a tree that Lily thinks tastes awful. Hmm. Use your schema on what you know about squirrels. Maggie Rose laughed delightedly. When she reached out to grab the dry, crackly ball out of my mouth, I danced away. We could play chase me at last. I was willing to keep that disgusting ball in my mouth if it meant that my girl would play with me at last. No, Lily, bring it here. Bring it here. That sounded familiar. And there was that word, no. I froze. Was Maggie Rose trying to tell me that we were playing Chase Me differently? But how else would that game go? I had this dry, prickly ball in my mouth, and now I would run and Maggie Rose would come right after me, right? The powerful tang of the ball was building a horrible taste on my tongue, so suddenly I just needed to spit out that thing. Good dog, Lily, my girl praised. Good dog. What had I done to get from no to good dog so quickly? I wagged in confusion. This is literally how I picture dogs when they're being trained and they're getting all those little treats that you're giving them. If you've ever had to train a dog, saying good dog or no, and then they start recognizing what they're supposed to do. Because I do think that dogs want to please you, and I think sometimes they just get confused on what we really want. Especially Riley, like I don't want her chewing on my furniture, but that apparently is something that she's been doing. So we're back to square one with training, trying to keep her from chewing on my kitchen table. The squirrel was watching from the roof. Maggie Rose cranked her arm back and pitched the foul tasting ball up over Sammy's head again. I was frankly glad to get rid of it. Sammy vanished, and then she was back with that same awful ball in her mouth. I was immediately worried she would toss it down again. We had enough of them on the ground already, and my girl had made a whole pile of those things over by the fallen tree. Throw the pine cone, Maggie Rose encouraged Sammy. Pine cone. Not an acorn, like I thought. That thing was called a pine cone, and it tasted as bad as anything that I've ever had in my mouth. I was very disappointed to see Sammy drop it once again. But once it hit the ground, I felt it leap on. I felt I had to leap on it because apparently that was the game that we were playing. Maggie Rose laughed with such an absolute glee, I couldn't help but wag, even with the horrible pine cone in my mouth. My tongue felt sticky. Bring it here, Lily, she said, holding out her hand. Apparently, bring it here meant I had to have to hold this thing in my mouth any longer. I gladly allowed my girl to take it from my jaws. I know, Riley, you don't eat those pine cones, do you? You don't eat those because they're not good for you. We're playing catch. Catch, Sammy. The game lasted for some time until my tongue and nose were so full of the piney flavor I felt pretty sure that I would never be able to taste food again. I would have been more than happy to do anything else, but my girl was laughing so delightedly I stuck with it. Wasn't this what I wanted to hear her clear high laughter? I had managed to bring real cheer to my girl, and that was the purpose of a puppy. Although I did think we could have managed without that pine cone. And probably without the squirrel, too. Dad came back from wherever he had been, his dusty boots coated with a new and interesting odor. He poured some water into a bowl for me, and I drank and drank, tasting the pine cone with every swallow. Then he put Sammy's cage in the truck, but Sammy forgot to climb in. We played catch with Sammy's dad. We played catch with Sammy, Dad, Maggie Rose said once we were back in the truck. I sprawled at her feet, exhausted. I yawned so hugely the muscles in my jaws ached. I hoped as soon as Sammy came out of the tree and got in the truck, we would all go home so I could nap with my mother and maybe the girl and Dad. That's nice, Maggie Rose, Dad replied. No, really. The truck rumbled to life and started moving. Sammy was being left behind. How odd. I decided that I would think about what that meant some more another time. I have to stop by the house for something, Dad said, as we drove. Then we'll head back to the shelter and drop off Lily. It was the last thing I heard anyone say before I dozed off. When the car stopped, I jumped out with Maggie Rose, who put the leash on me. Treat! I looked around to see where we were. We had not returned to the place where I lived with my mother. We were in a small yard in front of a building that was bigger than the one that Sammy had on the roof. The grass and the dirt and the sidewalk all smelled powerfully of Maggie Rose and her family. Dad, Mom, Brian, Craig, and my girl had walked here many times. That meant this place was all right by me. Craig was outside playing with a big ball, and as I watched, he threw it up at the roof, even though there were no squirrels up there. Instead, there was a ring of metal. The ball bounced off the ring and came back down. Maybe that's how people play Bring It here when they don't have any squirrels or pine cones. Hey, where have you been, Runt? Craig asked. Dad came around the front of the truck. Craig, what did you just say? He demanded. All right. Go ahead and make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen now that they are at Maggie Rose's house with Dad? And how do you think Lily is going to feel about it? Because she seems a little bit confused and definitely like she wants to go back to her dog mother. So go ahead and leave that comment below. I will see you tomorrow.